AI is only as powerful as the platform it's built into. That's why it's no surprise that more than 85% of the Fortune 500 use the ServiceNow AI platform. While other platforms duct tape tools together, ServiceNow seamlessly unifies people, data, workflows, and AI, connecting every corner of your business. And with AI agents working together autonomously, anyone in any department can focus on the work that matters most. Learn how ServiceNow puts AI to work for people at servicenow.com. Hey everyone, welcome to Served. I'm Andy, JW, Techie Sean, producer Mike.
What's up?
And full-time media personality and analyst Chris Eubanks joined the show this week.
Wow.
Banksy.
What a warm intro.
Banksy, we did a quick served on you yesterday, but how you feeling? It's actually only 6 minutes after we filmed that, so how you feeling? How's retirement settling in? Has it sunk in yet?
I feel just as good as I did 10 minutes ago. The phone's a little bit crazy, but overall, great.
Good. JW, what's shaking? Where are you in the office early today, bud?
Yeah, no. Back in New York. Can I just say I love that we have a retirement announcement, and 6 minutes later, we are the first post-tennis gig for Chris Eubanks. This is going to be historic.
I'm sorry. Are we?
It's only right.
Are we not here to work? I don't understand. I thought he was retiring to do this. I don't get this. Like, can we just get to it?
He's got a flight to catch to go to the beach.
Yeah. So obviously the story of the week, the year, the last 2 years on the men's side is Alcaraz Sinner. It does not look like that storyline will change. The space between them is slim, if there at all, and the space between them and the rest of Earth seems large. Banks, is it getting larger?
Try not to be I don't want to just jump in and say it's getting larger, but it's
more established.
It's certainly large enough already.
Yeah.
It's solid. There's a solid gap there. I think the reason I'm hesitant to say it's getting larger is because, granted, I was a kid, you were playing at the same time. I felt like there was a bit of that Roger-Rafa for a while, but that elevated the rest of the tour. Like, guys got better as a result of it. So we may not be able to see the gap kind of closing, and we see these two as like superhuman, which they obviously are. I just don't want to be a prisoner of the moment and go, oh, they're running away from the field. Like right now, they're already far enough away. Now it's up to the field, which will happen at some point, that they will start to close that gap. But yeah, they are clearly the top two guys right now. I think, other players know it. I think media knows it, and it's it's a fun time to be a tennis fan.
And sure. we want to level set off the top. Obviously, Sinner beats Alcaraz in the World Tour Finals. Alcaraz gets the year-end #1 ranking. Phenomenal. Like, there's not enough superlatives. And now, the way I judge this, Banks, I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, is we're now getting to the point, like, with Roger, Rafa, Novak, if you ever said something nice about one of them, right, and you're like, oh, well, they need, maybe Carlos doesn't do well indoors. It's like you have Sinner fans going, well, he needs to deal with it. Like, yeah, there's kind of, they've both gotten good enough to where everyone's angry all the time of something nice said about one of these two champions. Carlos, well-deserved, #1 in the world, wins slams basically every year now. And Sinner almost snuck out the world #1 ranking, having missed 3 months. Like, these two are just absolutely phenomenal what they've done this year.
Yeah, it's especially to see Jannik come so close after missing those 3 months, missing, what was it, 6 big titles? Like, and to still, obviously Carlos edged him out. Carlos was able to get him at Roland Garros, was able to get him at the Open, but it's just such a fun kind of rivalry because not only are they producing great tennis, but they're also alternating on the results. Who's winning? It's like Sinner's dominating in Roland Garros, and Alcaraz comes back, finds a way to win it. Crazy. Now, the next time they play, Sinner is able to topple him at Wimbledon, a place that Carlos had won twice already. Now you come back to the U.S. Open. Carlos takes some time off. He tries to work on his game. You come back to the U.S. Open. Carlos wins in 4. Okay, now they're moving indoors. Sinner wins in straight. It's like you can't really get a good sense of, we can debate all day, who's going to win the next matchup. They play in Australia. I'm sure that's going to be the topic Carlos, are we going to get to Carlos Sinner final? And Sinner's track record in Australia has been great. So I think a lot of people are probably going to pick him because we don't have enough information to go on coming out of the offseason. But you can make a good enough case that, if Carlos gets healthy, he'll be able to make adjustments to be able to win it, to counter Sinner again. Like they're just alternating who's winning, and just the level that they are producing is it's fun to watch players at the top of the game like this, because I think the chess match is really, really fun to dig into, and the corrections that they are making and learning from each loss that one of them takes, they are able to kind of flip it, find ways to get better, and then to come out on top the next time. It's pretty remarkable.
It's great from a fan perspective, and you pick your tribe, but these guys are making each other better. And, I remember we did that flash podcast right after the US Open where like all three of us were in random places. But right before that, Sinner went into the press room, and he was down. He just said, look, I've got to adjust it. I've got to figure out a way to make my game better. I need to come up with some answers. And then you look at what happened in Turin, and he served a lot better. We saw a little bit of use of the drop shot. Maybe Alcaraz was injured, but good on Sinner for taking advantage of that. I think the one thing, this is a tremendous rivalry already. It's almost weird if they don't meet in finals now. But we're talking about Australia. Like you sort of rack your brain to figure out what one guy is going for the career slam, Alcaraz, the other's going for his third straight title. Like, man, short of injury, what would have to happen for them not to meet in the final? I think the one thing, if you go back 20 years ago, you had Roger and Rafa, but you also had this elevating the rest of the field. And Djokovic is obviously the most obvious example of someone who said, wait a second, I know what I've got to do. Now I've got to go execute it. I want to be part of this party. But even, Andy, you and Murray and Jay, everyone else kind of raised their game. And I think we don't want to get too greedy. Alcaraz and Sinner are this glorious rivalry. I think what we're waiting for is somebody in the rest of the field to step up and say, I want this to be a three-way rivalry the way Novak did. Going back to the point before, it's a really long staircase down to that 3-4-5 level, and that isn't just the eye test. That's statistically too. Right now Zverev has fewer than half as many points at number 3 as Sinner does at number 2. I can't find a time. Even I pulled up some of these old rankings from 20 years ago when Roger and Rafa were catching gears, and even at the height of Federer Nadal, it was never this big a gap between 1-2 and then 3-4-5. So if the rivalry effect on the two of them is tremendous, it's great now in 2026 if this rivalry effect catches on and impacts the rest of the field as well.
One of the things that you mentioned quickly, JW, and I don't want to gloss this over, and I certainly want Chris's thoughts on this. As a top player, right, I often say our strengths can become our weaknesses, right? You're stubborn. For Carlos, and I was wondering after Indian Wells, he loses to Draper and he walks in and he goes, I'm trying to find it. I'm insecure. I was nervous. I don't know that we've ever had two guys that are as honest about their deficiencies when the rest of the world doesn't see any, right? Like, so Sinner goes in post-US Open press conference. He's fresh off of, winning Wimbledon, right? And not really losing to anyone not named Carlos. And winning the Australian Open and almost winning and he walks in and goes, I need to change a lot. That is an insane amount of self-awareness, and certainly a level of self-awareness that I never had, right? To know that you're, if not the best in the world, one of two, and to walk in straight in the US Open and have clarity about what comes next. Chris, that's not a normal thing for a player to have, especially that quickly after a defeat, right?
Yeah, but I also think that Jannik obviously has a phenomenal team around him. And I think having Darren, having Simone, I'm sure these are things that they have mentioned to him already of like, hey, maybe using a bit more variety. Darren, when he came on your pod, spoke about the conversation he had with Novak after Novak beat him at Wimbledon, saying everything is one speed. He's got to vary it up a little bit. Well, he was able to kind of make those changes. And for everybody else in the world, but not named Carlos, it's been good enough. But now you're coming up against that one guy who matches you from a movement standpoint. He has the firepower that you do. He has a bit more variety, a bit more feel, and that proved to be pretty costly in that U.S. Open. So now the guy also hasn't lost very much. I think it's a little easier to assess when you're on such a heater, and then you take that one loss, and you're like, what happened? It's like, oh, well, Carlos was coming in. He was mixing in the slice. He was finding his way in, kind of reinforcing the things that I'm sure, without speaking to him, Darren and Simone have tried to implore Jannik to do. But he's been dominant against everybody else in the world. So it's like, hey, maybe take a few risks and look to come in. You may get past, but it's going to work long term. I'm sure Jannik is a great steward and he listens. But when you're on the court and you're playing somebody and you're like, I know I can just out bruise this guy from the back and I'm going to win. It takes a special type of person to be like, you know what, I'm going to not care about the result and just try to get better. And maybe that loss to Carlos is what he needed, because we saw it here in Turin, not to jump ahead, but we saw some of those tactics that he spoke about in that U.S. Open press conference, looking to sneak in. We saw some amazing backhand redirects up the line, which I was like, geez, he's just firing the backhand up the line. But not just hitting it, he's taking that. Roger used to do it a lot. That kind of step forward, like, am I coming? Nope. And then he would kind of go back. You saw multiple times saying that Carlos was outstretched, and he had that kind of like split step of like, you know what? Nah, I'll go back. But he's looking to get his feet inside the baseline, looking to sneak in. It's like, oh, he's not just settling with being, the best in the world right now. He's still looking at ways to improve. But I think a lot of that goes back to the team he has, and they're doing a great job of continuing to progress and wanting him to continue to get better.
The other thing that I noticed yesterday was Alcaraz in the U.S. Open final. And this is just to kind of belabor the point of these adjustments on adjustments on adjustments on adjustments. They're not making the same adjustments that they were 8 months ago even, right? So Carlos comes out at the U.S. Open, and he's coming in on shots that I don't define as approach shots.
I mean, just straight, just like, what are you, like, just running in on some of those balls.
I said, is that the next version of coming in, right? People, when the guys are so good now, and the technology with rackets and everything has created the ability to create spin at such a crazy amount, is what Carlos is able to do the next version of getting in, where he just takes a haymaker anywhere, comes in, and then, but the difference is, you and I, Chris, we're not good enough to adjust on the fly and pick balls off of our shoe tops and create a variety of shots, right? Because you kind of have to go in, and then at that point, you're playing street ball, right? You're adjusting 100%. To what's in front of you. But Sinner saw what we saw at the U.S. Open. He saw what Carlos was doing. There was 6 or 7 times in that match in Turin, I say yesterday, it was 2 days ago by the time you listen to this, where he hit his passing shots just that much firmer, caught Carlos coming in on those shots. It's like, okay, that worked once in New York, but now I'm looking for it, right? And it's that constant cat and mouse. That was something that stood out to me yesterday, where Carlos tried it again, was coming in just, on a shot that looked like it was just a shot from the baseline. It wasn't. There was no invitation to come in.
Carlos had a serving volley one time that was 2 feet inside the baseline, went forehand volley inside in, comes to net, and then closes like so tight with a forehand volley, blocks it up the line. I think Sinner went for the lob and missed it. But it was like serve, was kind of hanging around, landed in no man's land. He scoops it up with a forehand volley inside in, and then just full charges the net. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah,
he won that. He won that point,
and he won the point. I was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah,
wait. This is really interesting, because I think casual fans are a little, with Roger and Rafa, right? I mean, they were the same height, and they were exactly the same weight down to the pound. But then it was
I call
really
bullshit on that with Roger and Rafa, by the way, just so we're clear. Rafa,
I was like, really?
Rafa can bench press a car.
Yeah. I look at that picture of me.
Yeah, bullshit. I see pictures right here. No. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
6'1", 187. No, but I think then you watch, right? In any casual fan, this guy, it's lefty and righty, and this guy's making all sorts of noise, and the other guy's silent, and the contrasts were really obvious. With Sinner and Alcaraz, it's interesting because you see them physically at the net, and there's a good half a foot of height difference. But after that, I think casual fans might be. What would you tell the casual fan what to look for in terms of contrast in this rivalry?
Here's what I think, and Eubanks is going to bring up something smart that I haven't thought of after this, I'm sure. But for me, Sinner, as far as controlling the middle of the court, so you serve first ball, you return deep, first ball in the middle of the court. He's as good as I've seen at swallowing the middle of the court with pace. You can hit it hard. He will stay in that cross-court rally if he needs to, and you can't gain on him with pace. Nobody is going through Jannik Sinner. The reason that Alcaraz is able to have a level of effectiveness that no one on earth has against him is because he can hit every shot, right? He can hit the drop shots. On clay, he can fade away. If Sinner knows what's coming it is curtains. It's like Ohtani and Barry Bonds looking for a pitch. They rarely miss it if they know what's coming. Carlos has 5 pitches versus a fastball and an off-speed pitch, right? And so that is the difference. Sinner's the best, one of the best I've ever seen at controlling the middle of the court, maybe along with Andre, except Andre wasn't 6'5", and he didn't have that movement and defense out of the corners, and he would tell you the exact same thing. One of the challenges, I think, when we go indoors is that Carlos loses one of his options, right? He can't flip the ball up and away from Sinner. He's not going to kick it out wide. The bounce stays a little bit more muted, right? So it's tougher to get out of Sinner's pocket indoors. And this is, I don't want to be hyperbolic, when you can't really go up and out of the zone, and then you kind of have to win points through his pocket, I think it becomes even more challenging for players when they go against Jannik indoors. Whereas, if you had a heat map of where people put you in trouble, Jannik's heat map would be between his shoulders and his knees, and he crushes you if he's in that heat map, whereas Carlos has the ability to get outside of that heat map more than anyone else on earth. What did I get wrong there, Chris?
No, you hit the nail on the head with a few things. The first thing, when you were saying Jannik's heat map has such a wide range of like strike zones that he can hurt you from. And so I always say, I think Jannik has 2 forehands. I think it's, you run him to the forehand side, he obviously can hurt you out of the corners. You run him to the backhand side, he can still hurt you out of the corners. When I was growing up, we were always taught, typically you want to approach to the backhand, you want to approach inside out, because it limits their ability, because they have to it's kind of tough without a court, but they have to kind of cross their foot, maybe use a slice. You kind of get it's just a little bit more uncomfortable to hit it this way than it is from like a semi-open position. Jannik is just master being able to just fire balls out of the corners on both sides. To Carlos's point, though, I really, I love watching Carlos, because as a kid at the time who grew up watching the Big Four, I see elements of the Big Four in Carlos's game, every single one of them. I see the second serve return. We see Carlos now stepping up close to the baseline, stinging it on the backhand side. Reminds me of Murray. Like, it reminds me of Murray, his ability to kind of step up, inject pace really quickly, and then get back. He's got a phenomenal lob as well. When he's hitting the forehand, I think usually I would say it's a bit more like Rafa, but I think his running forehand, and when he's looking to take time away, when he has to cut the angle off, take that forehand line and run to the net, his skills at the net resemble Roger, like undoubtedly his ability. And the thing is, Carlos makes a lot of flashy volleys, but he's so technically sound. When Roger, I remember as a kid watching Roger volley, and coaches would always say, don't volley like that, because he's just gifted. Like, he can break the wrist, he can break some of the rules that you kind of told how you need to get down at eye level. Carlos is such a technically sound volleyer, and that part reminds me of Roger. And of course, Novak, his defensive skills out of the corners, being able to kind of inject pace on the backhand, scrap and claw. Like, he has all of the Big Four. So in this matchup with Sinner, it's just about, we talk about he's a magician. It's just about playing the right things at the right time. And I think what we saw recently, this new implementation of crush and rush at times, where Carlos is just going to try to utilize all the tools that he has to keep Sinner uncomfortable. He can use the slice to kind of maybe bring Jannik up into the court, close to the baseline, and then try to sting him hard to the corners. Like, he's just trying to he's the only guy in the world who I think can move with Jannik. So he's utilizing his movement, he's utilizing variety to just try to get Jannik uncomfortable, because when he gets comfortable, especially indoors, there's not that much you can do. Now he's serving a joke. So it's like, all right, sweet. So he went 116 yesterday, set point, break point in the first, and Carlos missed the return because Carlos is trying to get in and be aggressive. Like, all right, yeah, if he's hitting seconds in crunch time at 116, 115, he's serving great first serves, he's firing winners on both wings. What do you do? What do you do is the major question.
I have so many things written down here, and I don't want to miss anything. With your comp on the Big Three and the Big Four, I think Carlos is a marriage of Roger, Rafa, and Murray, actually. I think Sinner is Djokovic 2.0. I think he's an inch taller. I think if the trade-off with Novak was 40-60 on the front foot versus I'm happy to D up, which I think is like an accurate thing. He can obviously punch you out if he needs to, but he was so good at just swallowing pace, making every point just brutal. I think Sinner's maybe the opposite. He's 60-40. He wants to get on that front foot, maybe a little bit earlier than Novak. But I think their games, without getting too creative, are the most similar. And then I think Carlos is this wrap-up of, on clay, that forehand comes off and it bounces over your head, right? He's able to flatten it out like Roger and use that kind of the amazing footwork, right? You can have a big forehand, but if you can't get your feet set quick enough in position, then you can't pull the trigger as often. I think the gift of Roger and the comp to Carlos is the footwork. Their feet barely touch the ground. They don't have to think about how to get in position. They can hit it big going left. They can hit it big going right. The angles they're able to take with their footwork makes their forehands feel even bigger than they are.
Yeah, taking time away on the forehand can make a ball sink 5 miles per hour faster. And if they run in and cut the angle and just get it early, it's like, geez.
Yep. It's just Roger was the master at that. He was a master of taking away time. He didn't knock your head off with pace, right? But he was able to read the game and then buy 3 or 4 steps, and all of a sudden he's redirecting and you haven't figured out what's going on yet, right?
Exactly.
He's the master of that. Carlos has that ability. The other thing he has is the ability, you said crush and rush, like Murray. On that backhand side, if you think about the way that Roger and Rafa return, Roger later in his career would step in and take cuts on the backhand side, but for a large portion of his career, he was so good at putting that chip in play, and then if you were neutral, you were actually behind. Rafa would have, preferred to go back and then kind of flip it up over your head with, this crazy spin mechanism that we had never seen. Carlos has the ability to hit those like punchy short returns like Murray did, right? And I think that's where kind of he's a mixture of those three, whereas Sinner, I think, is the next version of a Novak. So it's fun to kind of see how those tools play against each other. And kind of mimic patterns we've seen, but then they're taking on this new life based on these two guys and kind of continuing those chess matches.
Wait, let me throw a thought exercise at you. Instead of X's and O's, temperamentally, I would submit these two guys are nothing like the big three. I mean, Alcaraz has this permanent smile, and he's got this showstopper instinct. I mean, we talk about sort of Roger and his magic, but it wasn't often at the expense of sort of getting a reaction from the crowd. It was just his sort of genius expressing itself. And Sinner is sort of, I like the proto-Novak comparison. And if Novak had 2 extra inches of wingspan, and I mean, the Sinner
grown up with Polly, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point too. We haven't talked about, but I feel like but it's not Novak's temperament, and it's not the level of sports psychology and sort of the self-belief. I feel like one thing I love about this rivalry is that you could see the elements of the games from the previous generation, but in terms of temperament and personality and risk threshold, I don't see a lot of overlap. You buy that?
Yeah, I think so. I think comparing personality, I believe more now than I ever have in my life. Like, you make adjustments off your temperament and you try to figure out the best version of yourself to navigate through matches. And I also think, when I was growing up, it's like everyone had to try to act this way, right? It's like everyone went through the same process. Everyone went through, and I've talked about this when we've been speaking about Sabalenka is the most obvious example now of, like, you have to play to your personality and then figure it out, but not play to the opposite of your personality, right? I remember early 90s, like everyone, they all wanted us to deep breath. They all wanted us to fist pump this many times and have this positive reinforcement. And some people need to just blow a gasket.
Rip your shirt.
Well, Novak's a master at creating friction because he's really good at leaning into friction. Like, he's able to find his spaces. Rafa is great at like, I don't know how it's going to go. I hope I can just win 2 rounds. And then he gets you like a dog with some meat on it, right? Like, everyone has to find their pacing. So, yeah, I mean, I think their personalities are different. I think Roger enjoyed hitting crazy shots more than you guys are giving him credit for. I know,
for sure.
Yeah, but I don't totally buy that. I don't think it's accidental that he sabers when he's up 2 sets to love. I like. He does it where he's not looking for it immediately, like Carlos. He does it more. Yes,
that's a great call. It's not like he's dying for it, but if the opportunity presents itself and he's in a rally with Nalbandian at the Open or Davydenko at the Open, and he's like, fire 1, fire 2, fire 3. By the 4th one, he's swinging out of his shoes and rips a winner, and 100%. He's like, kind of like,
Well, the difference is a smirk versus a finger to your ear and a look upwards, right? Like that's the difference. That's basically what we're talking about. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that someone's going to look at the personality of Novak and say, okay, I have to create more friction. That's not Jannik's personality. Like Jannik wants to get to business. He wants to keep everything inside. I think he feels way bigger than he presents. And then, with Carlos, it's like he's unapologetically, I'm going to show, I'm going to smile, and I'm also going to tell you when I'm not feeling great or inspired.
Yeah, that's my point. That they've borrowed elements of the tennis for sure, but they have their own personalities that they're not trying to. This is how Novak would comport himself, so I must now do this.
JW, real quick, I wonder how much of that is a generational thing. Just being younger. I think just younger generations are more open with sharing and just being kind of honest. We're it's not just in tennis, it's across the board. If you were watching an NBA game and you wanted to know what Anthony Edwards was thinking, he'll tell you. You want to know what Wemby's thinking, like they'll tell you. Like there isn't, it's not as calculated and as manicured the responses in the media. I just want to go out and give my best effort. And
thank you very much.
We'll see what happens. Like it's like, no, like, yeah, I feel good. I like the way that I played, and it's just, there's an honest reflection. Carlos said, "Hey, I don't have it right now. We'll figure it out." Like when I was growing up, coaches were saying, "You never tell your opponent or tell people that you're low on confidence."
I lied so much, Chris.
100%. I
lied to everyone all the time, nonstop.
Did you guys hear? Did you hear Carlos also saying like, "Get ready for"? I'm paraphrasing, but get ready for 2026, Jannik, because I'm going to be there.
Yeah. The interesting thing you had mentioned, and we're kind of winding back to earlier in the conversation, JW, but there's so much to unpack with these two. But you said, what does it look like in Australia? So Jannik's obviously been dominant there. He showed up ready. I think Carlos kind of limped through the end of the year last year. He didn't look like himself at World Tour Finals. This version's very different, the way he finished this year and the way that he won 4 matches at World Tour Finals. Very different, I think. The career Grand Slam and potentially being the youngest, I think, still to potentially get that. I think that's going to be a big motivator. The difference is that if there's one thing to wonder about with both of them, actually, I think Carlos has spent more time, kind of maybe it exposed him a little bit earlier. But if you get on the wrong side of that heat in Australia, I think Sinner has shown that if anything, the heat can get to him a touch. Right? Whether it's Cincy, whether it's Shanghai and cramps, and we are absolutely nitpicking. Carlos also, with not knowing how to navigate the 3 out of 5, he went full body cramps at the French Open. So you said, in what world would these two not play in the finals of Australia? I think the single biggest factor is going to be conditions. If they get one of those days where they feel like they're playing in a hairdryer, I think that is going to be the biggest thing. Maybe not necessarily matchups, and they can cover up most of Earth. Is that too lazy of a take, Chris?
No, I think, like you said, with these guys, we're nitpicking. We're looking for any reason, like what could possibly happen within reason that would cause these two to not make the final based on what we've seen this year. And I didn't think of the conditions. The one thing I will say about the conditions, Jannik is, especially Jannik and Carlos, they've kind of elevated to that stature now, whereas and you probably could speak to from a player standpoint of they come to Australia and they say, hey, we want to play this at night if we can. They're going to try to accommodate, like, if that's what they want to do. The second thing is I don't think the heat will bother them enough in the earlier rounds. I just feel like with Sinner, it can be done and dusted pretty quickly. So, unless they get some crazy, a tricky matchup against like a Petchy Perricard, somebody who just keeps them out there, 7-6 first set on a super hot day, another 7-6. Like, unless it's something like that, I just don't see in those early rounds who would be unseeded that could cause them enough trouble where it is actually going to become strenuous in the heat. So, yeah, I don't.
There's a 38-year-old from Serbia who may have a say in the scheduling too. But let me ask you guys real quick: if these guys do meet in the final, I'm sure you saw this.
Oh, nothing like a 3-month ahead of time prediction in a finals matchup. This is what I love.
They will both. This is not a particularly bold prediction because it's rooted in math. They'll both go into that final with 1,651 points against the other one.
Crazy.
Did you guys see that?
Equal amount of points up to this point in their career. 1651, 1651. Insane. What do you got?
That's what I was going to go with.
Craziest part about that is the head-to-head. you're like, oh, okay, they must have the exact same numbers of wins and losses. And then you're like, wait, 10-6, and they've won the exact same number of points?
Yeah, I mean that's the go watch the Fed college speech. Where did he do that?
Yeah, well, I was going to hit you guys with that stat, right? It's
Dartmouth.
Yeah, Dartmouth. It's they've played 3,302 points, and they are currently tied at 1,651 points. In 2025, Sinner had 6 losses and 6 titles. Carlos had 9 losses and 8 titles in 2025. Both guys have 24 career titles. You know who else has 24 career titles?
Who?
Alexander Zverev.
Listen, okay.
I mean, I'm just saying, these guys are way up at the top.
It's a joke, and also there's a couple things. One, listen, I think we've gotten through. The one other thing I want to say about Sinner is doing an adjustment on your serve and changing where you're hitting it. You're too far out in front, bringing the toss back, adjusting it. It's too far right. So he's made a full adjustment on the fly, and it's pretty much worked immediately. One, that's not easy. That's impossible, especially when you start stress testing it in real time. He made it look easy when he went from platform serving, where he used to go off 2 feet, kind of similar to what I did, versus what Chris did, where he would bring it up a little bit more. He did that right after Wimbledon, or right before Wimbledon one year, and he made it. It sucks because we wouldn't spend enough time. If it went sideways, we would spend a full episode talking about it, and I don't want to gloss over it just because he's made these adjustments and been able to implement them in real time. That doesn't make it less difficult. I mean, it's an insane thing to do.
Is that like a hitter changing his stance, a quarterback changing his throwing motion, like a shooter changing his jump shot, like mid-season?
A shooter changing his jump shot, yes. I think is probably the best comparison.
Yeah. It's not like an arm angle on one serve, or it's not an adjustment on one shot or a free throw, or like something that's a subset of, like, he has to start half his points with this new thing and deliver it. And he didn't serve 50% in the U.S. Open final, and then he goes to Turin. The one against Alcaraz was actually his lowest first serve percentage of the week, but he was up over 70%. Now, he did it last year in Turin, but there's 2 things, and Chris actually got to this, which I think is a great point, and this proves what he was saying earlier, is there's being open to change when you're that good is really hard. And also the fact that he empowers his team to say, okay, well, I know you're this guy. I know you're Jannik Sinner, all those stats that you just talked about, and I'd like you to change this. And he goes, yeah, let's try it. Like, giving your team the ability for input is not the case all the time when you've been as successful as Sinner's been the last 2 years. I was a dickhead about it. I mean, I know that'll shock no one, but like, I was like, don't tell me, I'm not ready to hear it. But like, his ability to kind of be ready for information that may help him at all times, I don't think that's normal. Do you think that's normal, Chris? I think it's insane.
No, not to be that successful already. Being able to do, especially middle of the year, change your service motion at the end of the year, go through the off season. All right, you've had some time, but right in the summer to show up, change your service motion before Wimbledon was. I remember when I saw it the first time I saw him serve, I go, whoa, what is this? Like, this is not. I played him in 22 at the Open, so it had to have been. Was it 23 when he changed the serve? I played him in 22, and he was platform. And then I just look up. First thing I see when he's sliding the foot up, not even sliding, he's actually picking it up and like putting it there. I was like, that's weird. Why now? And sure, what do I know?
Both of them, by the way, like, you take their serves, I would argue that their serves are the most improved parts of both of their games over the last 3 years. Carlos could always hit it hard and big. Like, I remember when he won Miami the first time, he was, the register was still 135, 137. The variety that he's able to hit, he used to be steep to where you knew that it wasn't getting as much motion. Like, you look at him now, he can hit the wide one in a returner's count. He can hit slice. He can mix up kicks. He's kind of developing almost that Roger thing where he is not scared to hit any serve in any pitch count. Right? And Jannik,
real quick, Andy. Yeah. He's also tinkering with his motion a little bit.
All the time.
You go back
he's rounded out the bottom completely.
He's rounded out the bottom, exactly.
Totally. He used to be like this, and now it's like think of it as your take back for you listeners at home. He used to take it down and up, and it was sharp, almost like a V. So your arms go down, it gets to a point, and it's sharp back up, and it looks like a V, which I think constricts the ability to create spin. Now it's almost like a rounded out U, which means his elbow more consistently gets back in the right spot. And he's done that in real time also, without a lot of attention. Like the ability of these guys to constantly seek improvement and to be able to adjust on the fly, where we would be talking about it ad nauseum if they didn't make it look easy. It's just absurd. Oh, and you mentioned Zverev also. I'm kind of sick. And listen, you might not be a fan of Sasha for reasons and things that have happened off court or whatever it might be. But there have been people on, different podcasts and different things who are like, they treat a guy like he's not a great player. And that pisses me off. You talk about 24 titles.
Yeah.
He's made World Tour finals every year that he hasn't been hurt for the last 9 years. There are not a lot of people who have made World Tour finals 8 times.
And won twice.
Because Carlos and Jannik are so good, I don't ever, ever, ever want to get to the place where anyone who's not them is treated like a piece of shit. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Can you go off on that a little bit, Chris, now that you're a retired player?
Yeah, for sure. I remember I saw a clip. Of a pod. I'm not going to say who it was, but they were trying to make the point that, and again, to what you said previously, I think a lot of this animus we hear about people talking about Zverev's tennis stems from their belief or their feelings about him off the court. But strictly if we're talking tennis. I
don't know Sasha. I've met him a couple times in passing, and also that has no bearing on my opinions with his tennis.
On his opinions on the tennis. It shouldn't. We have to be able to separate the two and compartmentalize and be objective. Correct. Whatever you feel about off the court, that's one thing. If we're talking tennis,
yes.
There was someone on a pod who tried to drive home the point that, and I'm gonna quote it, was like, I just don't know what he does. He's just not that good. I watch him and he's just not that good. And I'm looking and I go,
it makes me so angry.
What are you talking about? The guy's 6'7", usually serves around 75 to 80% first serves, averaging 135 miles an hour, has one of the best backhands we've ever seen. Was actually, we can say that there are guys before him, big guys, was kind of the first of the big guys who was an exceptional mover. I feel like before him, there would be big guys who we say moves well for a big guy. That guy moves well for a big guy. Zverev, his movement is incredible. You can critique his tendencies to play a bit more passive and not be aggressive and force the issue. Sure, now we're talking tennis. But to sit up here and just unequivocally say he's just not that good, to me, just doesn't make logical tennis sense. And now it feels like you're allowing your feelings about him off the court to cloud what you see on the court, because there's no way you can sit there and watch him on TV or in person and watch him and go, yeah, this guy isn't that, he's just not that good. Like, his track record speaks for itself.
On the one hand, but most people would sell their firstborn for the year he had. On the other hand, and he's really, I feel like, admirably candid about his year. He's look, I don't know what the quote is, an incredibly, unsatisfying year. We should be able to say, this guy served for a major title and he couldn't close. This guy's been to assorted other finals. He doesn't have a major, but he's still really friggin' good. And I also think we don't give him enough credit, A, for recovering from that injury the way
great point, JW.
Yeah.
Also, we talked about Sabalenka. This guy's had some pretty severe yips as well that he's managed to overcome. So I think, look, I think we can't always say, hey, he's number 3 in the world. Imagine being the third best at it. I think we should leave space to say, yeah, there's some goals that are unfulfilled.
100%.
Yeah, even by his own admission,
I'm
he'd like to have a major by now. But to denigrate the guy's entire career because he hasn't won a major is absurd. And I think of all people, he's really realistic. He's really pragmatic. And he says, look, I'm not satisfied by being number 3 in the world. I should have more. And I think we take a cue from him at some level. But in a weird way, he's both the best player not to have won a major. And I also think at the same time, he's kind of underrated. And his record, not just getting to Turin every year, he's won it twice. Nadal won 0. He's against the 8 best players in the world. I don't have it in front of me. He's 18-10 or something when he gets to Turin. So, this is, strange to think in terms of Hall of Fame for a guy that's never won a major, but this is at once a sort of a guy we say is the best never to have won a major, and also almost criminally underrated in what he has done for the last decade.
Listen, here, great point, and let's just be very simple about this. Is he squeezing too tight because he wants a major so badly? Probably. Sure. Does that mean he's not a great tennis player? Does that mean we take away from the volume statistics of his career, the fact that he's won Olympic gold, like he's won World Tour finals,
two of them, doesn't he? Does he have two?
Does it live in the same universe where, yes, would he tell you that he was nervous and might have choked away a Grand Slam at the U.S. Open? I'm guessing he would probably tell you yes at some point in his life. And does that mean he's not the best player to have never won a major? Does that mean he's not the clear, if there's, a lot of space between Sinner and Alcaraz, he's always that next guy. Like he's always consistently, if Medvedev had a moment, but he's been there for a decade. To simply sit there and say he's not that good is offensive to every tennis player on the planet, in my opinion.
It's like, geez, well, what's the rest of us?
Seriously,
absolutely suck.
Give me a fucking break.
If you're looking at this guy, and even you mentioned the yips on the serve, I think the year he served for the U.S. Open was the year he was going through the yips on his serve. So he made the final and still put himself in a position because he started serving practically 2 first serves. Like it was a joke. I think that after that, his percentage started to go crazy high. But to make a Grand Slam final, serve for it while still not having full confidence in your biggest weapon. And then you're like, yeah, the guy he's just not it. I'm like, come on, man. Let's be real about, if we're going to critique the sport and the athlete and their performance on court, let's be real about critiquing the athlete on the court.
Yeah, I agree. So our takeaways are that Alcaraz and Sinner are going to be all-time greats. If you sit there and say Zverev's not that good, I kind of dismiss anything you say afterwards. I just don't really buy into that. You've lost me. You've lost me. He's not that good because of feelings. I don't no. And tennis is really hard. And I think we disrespect all of tennis when we pretend like it's easy. I don't think that's the story that we need to be telling in tennis. Eubanks, you know what is easy is you doing broadcasting. You should do it full time. You're really good at it.
I got a lot of free time on my hands, so I might take you up on that.
I appreciate you, buddy. I'll check in the next couple of days. I know we're going to see you here in Charlotte in a couple of weeks, so hopefully we can get together in person then. Enjoy your retirement. Lean into those comments. I'm sure 90% of them are fantastic. Your beloved figure in this game, so appreciate your time, JW. On the other side, we're reacting to some news. I think the press release is out, so we're allowed to. Yeah. New tournament director of the U.S. Open, friend of the show, Eric Butorac, on the other side. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Served. It is my pleasure to introduce our friend Eric Butorac with a new title for the first time on this show, tournament director of the U.S. Open. Eric, how does that feel when you hear that?
It feels pretty good. Not quite sure how to feel about it exactly. I guess I was reminded by a friend recently that I kind of forgot about, that this was a goal of mine at some point. I don't actually remember that. I'm more of a live in the moment kind of person. I did a TED talk once on trying to set small goals, so I don't remember this comment, but he said I did say it. It's super exciting. I just got to share the news with our greater U.S. Open team, and I shared a point that I thought when I retired from playing professional tennis that would be the most exciting thing I got to do professionally. And really would never have imagined that there would be something equally or maybe even more fulfilling than being able to play 40 Grand Slams. And today it's kind of embarks on just another continuation of that path, but super honored to get the role.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been well deserved. I know we have a pretty easy relationship. I think we deal, in a pretty straightforward manner with each other. But you're someone I always know that if I text, I'll get a text back. If I have a question, I'll get an honest answer. You'll tell me if you can do something. You'll tell me if something's not possible. I've always appreciated that. I think that's your reputation inside of the sport. Even if it's something like, and I think this was, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, but even the mixed doubles this year was a lightning rod of a topic for a while, and then it worked on, in my opinion, on a spectacular level. You're respectful, you're fair, you're balanced, but then it seems like you're also not scared to take a shot, right? And throw the ball downfield. How much of the last 10 years has been an adjustment? Do you feel like you settled into your role pretty easily, or has it kind of been an adjustment over the last 10 years that's gotten to this point?
Settling into the role easily, no. There's no playbook when you leave the tennis court and walk into an office. No one tells you how to read a budget report. No one teaches you how to CC someone properly on an email. And a lot of that was a lot of failings and tripping over my own feet in those early years. I hope that the honesty or trying to just be a good human can get you through those points. And I have a lot of people to thank at the Open, most notably Stacy, but many others as well who've stuck with me over the years and kind of showed me how to try to do this job well. I guess when it comes to taking a big swing or even just the honesty with you, I love tennis, right? I love the sport. It's afforded me opportunities that I'm so grateful for. And so I think when you come at this stuff from a place of, I just want the US Open to be better. I want it to be a better event. I love sitting in the after action report where we went through 585 line items of things we want to do better next year. Because I see all those things and I want to be a part of making every one of those million fans who comes through the door or another, millions more who watch it at home have a really special experience. So when you come at it from that, I think it's a little easier to be honest and candid and try to do that as much as I can.
I would say I'd say too that it's easy to say, but your actions speak volumes. I feel like people don't necessarily know this about you. You were a really good doubles player, but you didn't play much singles. And I always thought that you got a lot of heat from doubles players over the mixed format, but the response was, look, this is being done in the service of tennis, in the service of the event, in the service of tennis fans. This was not in your best interest necessarily as a former doubles player. And I think the fact that you were adamant of, look, I'm sorry that this may be costing some doubles players, but this is what we need to do for the betterment of the sport is something tennis could use a lot more of. Let me ask you a quick question. There are cameras, of course, on the courts. There are not cameras necessarily in all of the back rooms and in the boardrooms. What's a tournament director do? Other than argue with agents about court assignments, like what are we missing here? What's the job exactly?
Yeah, that's a good question. It certainly varies, and I've been lucky to have a front row seat of everything that Stacy does for the last 9 years, and being right by her side and watching how she handles the day-to-day minutia of meetings with different parts of the team throughout the day. Of making the schedule, which you made a nod to, which is super important. I love being in the scheduling room. I love trying to look at that puzzle and figure out how can we put on the best product for the fans that balances player fairness, what fans want to see, not only in Arthur Ashe Stadium, but out on court 14 versus who needs a certain player to play early because they're going to be on in Tokyo versus someone who needs to be later because they need to be in Australia, and really figure out how to make that puzzle work every single day. I love that aspect of it, and that's a big part of the role. And then there's also some really big stuff that comes in, and I've watched Stacy navigate the COVID era, Serena's retirement, working with me on the mixed doubles reimagined format. It's a ton of communication. It's a lot of being available, as Andy said earlier. So it's a big responsibility and one that I won't take lightly.
So something I want to read to you, Eric. You've mentioned Stacy a couple times this interview already, and for those who don't know, we're talking about Stacy Allaster, who was the tournament director. She texted me this morning. She said, "Good morning, Andy. I want you to know how proud I am of Eric to be our next U.S. Open tournament director. My quote in our release is 100% my words and no comms teams involved. He's an amazing person, industry leader, and a wonderful husband and father." He said, or she said, "Stacy, former U.S. Open tournament director. How does that make you feel from someone who has largely been a mentor to you?"
Yeah, when you work for someone for a decade, and especially the career that I had, I owe her so much. But mostly just the patience. The constant trippings over my own feet as I tried to get things done or push new initiatives to kind of say either slow down and have you thought about this, or hey, maybe you should consider doing it this way, or keep pressing. This is going to be uncomfortable, but keep going. Just the endless amounts of guidance and support, and I know that won't end, even though that she's technically no longer the TD. She'll be a short phone call away.
So I know this is probably a lot to think about and take on, but I assume you're not someone who's normally short with thorough thought. As you look forward with this job, what is a part of it that stresses you out, and what is a part of it that you know that you can impact in a positive way?
Well, I think the biggest part that stresses out, and I had this feeling in Cincinnati, I was a tournament director in Cincinnati for 1 year before the USTA sold that, is I'm used to being in the room, right? And one of the guys who has an opinion. And there was a moment in Cincinnati as the TD when we had just an extended rain delay. We were going to have a short window to play some matches. We could move the night session over to Grandstand, get the matches played, but then we'd have to refund tickets. And ATP was weighing in, and WTA was weighing in our house, and TV and all these different things. And then we had to make a decision. They all looked at me, and I thought, oh crap! I am used to being one of the guys with an opinion from the back. So I think switching into that seat when there's actually decisions to be made will there's a pressure there, but also a level of excitement. But also with the U.S. Open, there's such a strong team. Kirsten Corio, our commercial director, Danny Zausner, who runs the facility. It's such a well-oiled machine. I'm really just a cog in the wheel at this point.
Let me ask you, one of the things I loved about the mixed doubles was the fact that I don't think fans didn't necessarily, it was free, that for the most part fans could come the week before the singles draw started and watch the best players, and it cost $0.00. And then the tournament starts, and at some level I think that the US Open is sort of a victim of its own success, and the market is the market, but for a lot of people it's become really, really expensive, sometimes prohibitively so. As tournament director, have you thought about the sort of balance between the commercial interests and, we don't want to leave money on the table, but also making it more affordable and accessible to New York tennis fans?
Look, that's something that not only I think about, but that our whole team thinks about a lot and is debated. The US Open mixed doubles was super successful, so much so that free content we put on Louis, we could easily charge for that next year. And we had that debate already. And I think our plan is, at this moment, it's not decided yet, but no, we want to continue to offer that content for free. Maybe we'll charge on Ash like we did last year, but let's keep Louis. We need to keep something that is accessible for the fan to still come and experience the US Open. So it's hard because, like you said, that there is so much demand. And there's times where, the brokers will buy up all the inventory and it becomes almost out of our hands. And that becomes unfortunate that we can't even get the tickets to the actual tennis fan who deserves them. But where we can, we'll continue to try to lean in. And you've got my word that I'll push on that as much as we can.
So it's your second day. By the time people hear this, you will have been officially the tournament director for hours at least. So I'm not going to beat you up today and ask you a whole bunch of stuff, Eric. I always appreciate your transparency. I know that'll continue. We talked on Thursday night, and you told me, and I think you could realize that my instant reaction was one of happiness for you. I think it's a job that you will thrive in. I know you're not scared of a tough conversation. One of the things that I think people need to realize is decisions aren't made in an absolute context, right? So he's talking about the rocket ship that has been the U.S. Open, especially under Stacy's leadership, versus accessibility and how to actually navigate those things. There's not an easy answer or a clear answer in all of those things. Do you anticipate being on kind of the front lines of frustration? And is that something that stresses you out at all? Or it's just, there's going to be a decision. I'm going to kind of just try to take the next right step.
When I got recruited to take this job, the player relations part of my job in 2016, I started, and Gordon Smith was the CEO at the time and kind of offered me the role. And, I asked him the question because at the time, the relations with the US Open and players was not good. And it was a tournament that didn't have great execution of all the player services. There was no one really to talk to when, you had an issue. And he said, I want you to come and be that person. And I asked him the question. I said, but are you going to help me, with budget, with when I have ideas, I want, make sure that I have the opportunity to say yes. I just don't want to be a punching bag. And so he assured me of that. But also there is a component to that job where you are a punching bag, right? Players do come and they are upset about things. And I've tried my best over the past decade I don't go hide in a back office. I'm always out and about. And when there's a horrific traffic jam and everyone's late for their matches and people are pissed, I'll go out there and stand in the garden and sort of take it on the chin. If we made a bad decision on something, and whether it's scheduling or practice, I try to meet it head on. So yes, these decisions that I'll be a part of maybe have more at stake, but I hope that people don't see me as someone that was hiding from the difficult issues for the past decade, because I've done my best to be out on the forefront as much as possible.
I agree with all of that. I don't think that's just lip service at all. And I got to think that most of Tennis Universe would say, even if we don't agree with things, maybe we would prefer it a different way. You're always there. You're always honest. You're always a steady hand. I'm ecstatic for you. Congratulations, condolences, all of the things for this job. You're welcome on absolutely anytime. Open door policy. We get something right. We get something wrong. We need to correct anything. You always have a microphone here to tell us what we need to know. Eric, I'm happy for you. Congratulations, new tournament director of the U.S. Open.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. And thanks for all you guys do.
Cheers, Booty. Can I call him Booty anymore? That's like you can't call him that. Can we Mr. Booty? Mr. Booty?
I think it's going to stick with me.
Officer Booty?
Sir Booty.
Sir Booty. There we go. All right. Thanks, Eric.
No, I appreciate you guys making the time.
Hey,
cheers,
congrats,
man. Congrats again. All right, thank you, Eric Butorac, tournament director, for coming on. Just breaking news today, JW, like the Booty ahead of time. And we filmed that segment before it was officially released. Mm-hmm. Same with Eubanks. What did you think about Eubanks and then kind of walking that fine line between player, broadcaster, kind of outside looking in, JW?
I feel like we didn't appreciate this balance that he was going through, where he's this ascending broadcaster, but he's also trying to get better as a player. But I'm thinking one of the beauties of this podcast is that people listen to it all over the world. They may not have heard him on Tennis Channel or ESPN, and I think listening to him, you get a sense of the perspective, the curiosity, the humility, everything that has made him such a good broadcaster. If you've never heard him on TV, I think listening to him just now with us, you get a sense of why he is so special. And he was very modest about it. You and I need to both kind of double team him and explain he has a skill set that, as you say, could go way beyond tennis. I mean, if you could invest, if there were an IPO on broadcasters, I would like to get in on Chris Eubanks at the ground floor.
I wish there was an IPO, because I think I said way back when I actually participated in social media, I think I said he's the best natural broadcaster I've ever seen from day one. Mm-hmm. I would have bought then, and it'd be great right now.
Yeah, you've been saying that a lot.
It'd be fantastic. Mike, what do we got?
So next week is a special Thanksgiving week, top 10 episode, top 10 matches of 2025. We've had a list out.
I wonder what number one's going to be.
I know. I have no idea. No idea what number one's going to be.
Yeah.
Much like the ATP rankings, I'm more excited for 3 through 10.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Go onto our social media handles and cast in your vote. We're going to close that up this week. We also have a special fan Q&A episode the first week of December, and then we'll close out the year with our typical end-of-year recaps, our rankings, but we have some special episodes mixed in there.
Yeah, we're going to bank some good interviews as people are winding down their seasons. I think Eubanks is going to be in town, so hopefully, for him, I want to do an episode like, okay, 5 biggest forehands you've ever faced, and we both go. Like, just stuff like that where,
that's cool.
Kind of off-season type conversation. So a lot coming for you, but listen, our lists are going to be better if you participate in them.
Yeah,
right?
And I know this off-season's really long, so you just got to bear with us until tennis starts.
We're going to have days to go on a tangent.
It's a Tuesday this year.
Hey, at least it's not Thanksgiving this year. Improvements, right? Baby steps.
Yeah, it's baby steps.
Anyways, thank you for listening to Serve, JW. Thanks for getting on, and thanks again for bailing us out last week because we had nothing. Producer Mike, Techie Sean, the whole team. I'm Andy, and we'll see you next week. AI is only as powerful as the platform it's built on. With the ServiceNow AI platform, your AI, data, and workflows all work together, connecting every corner of your business. To see how you can put AI to work for people, visit servicenow.com/AI-agents.